Knicks, Celtics, Warriors, tonight on ESPN. Ball for all.
They'll try and stop you every step of the way.
Browns, we pick this up as you see Cleveland.
The only way to save it is in my hands. My name is Sam Porter Bridges. It's my job to reconnect us.
The Browns were flying around playing very physical. This was only the beginning as far as the physical play was concerned.
Greedy Williams with the hit. Juju Smith-Schuster with a concussion on the play in the third quarter. This is Mason Rudolph looking for Deontay Johnson, who was going to be hit by Demarius Randall. Johnson goes down and he would leave as well. Randall was ejected.
Yeah, I mean, this is the very definition of an ear hole shot. Crown of the helmet, right to the side of the jaw. I mean, that's where you're the defensive backs of the Browns were flying around playing very physical, and this was only the beginning as far as. I mean, that's just a vicious hit, and this is how the game was going all night. It was trending in this direction.
Johnson, you see as he's leaving, you see blood coming out of his ear. So it was already an ugly night. It was a terrible night from a football standpoint for Mason Rudolph as well, all the way around. Hit Steelers down 14-7 with a concussion on the play in the third quarter. Still have a chance, but this is Mason Rudolph looking for Deontay Johnson, who was going to be hit by Demarius Randall.
Really
Johnson goes down in a heap.
The Browns defensively played a very good game. Mason Rudolph played a terrible game, and this play right here is about defensive backs you can see all year long.
This is what puts it away here. Mayfield finding time, and Steven Carlson with a great catch.
Yeah, I mean, he just went over the back of Mark Barron, and that's great concentration. That's this making a play in a situation where you are covered, but the quarterback takes a chance anyway. And that's the best part of football right there.
And then the reality is no one will remember any of those things. Pay no attention to where the ball goes here. You can see there are fewer than 10 seconds left on the clock at this point. But Myles Garrett, who again was the #1 pick in the draft just a few years ago and may be the best player on the Cleveland Browns roster, ripping the helmet directly off the head of Mason Rudolph, hitting him with it. You see the scuffle that ensues. There are quite a few moments here that have gotten a lot of attention and certainly will get the attention of the folks in the offices in the National Football League who we're told are convening in New York right now to begin sorting this out and begin figuring out the discipline. There's the helmet going off of the head. David DeCastro was the lineman for the Steelers trying to be a peacemaker. Once that happens, once Garrett hits him with the helmet, all bets are off. That's Marquise Pouncey of the Steelers that you see throwing the punches and the kicks. It's Larry Ogunjobi who you will see come running in and smash Rudolph from behind in what was been described here by multiple people as a cowardly act. One way or another, there's Ogunjobi hitting Rudolph from behind, and you will be able to see clearly what Rudolph says back to him. In the end, it is a 21-7 Browns win, but that does not feel in any way like it is the story last night.
Should Garrett be done for the year for what he did?
Absolutely, 100%. We'll see how serious the NFL is about their players.
Do you expect anything to happen to you?
At this point, who cares? My man got hit in the head with a helmet. I mean, I'll accept whatever penalty it is.
I'm not a dirty player. I'm not trying to hurt nobody, but, I mean, I feel like if the shoe was on the other foot, I feel like they would do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I apologize to Mason. I'm not trying to hurt nobody. But at the same time, like, when somebody's on my teammate, it's my brother. I've been with him for 3 years. So ain't nothing personal. It's just, I'm not going to let you sit there and hit my guy, kick my guy. Like, that's just wrong.
I'm all about being competitive, but that had to be one of the stupidest things I ever saw.
Should he be suspended for this?
Yes, hands down. And I told those other players on the other side, y'all better handle that. I don't care who's out there. You know, we play this game, we all work for it. But for someone to use a helmet as a weapon is uncalled for.
All right, so our Dan Orlovsky was watching, and he tweeted the following. 1, very thankful Rudolph is okay. 2, Myles Garrett should not play in the NFL for the rest of the season, and that's the minimum. Don't embarrass the shield. 3, he should have criminal charges pressed on him. And then 4, the Haslam family, they are the owners of the Cleveland Browns, should take it upon themselves before Goodell does. That's what Dan Orlovsky thinks. Adam Schefter was with us earlier this morning on Get Up.
What we saw Thursday night was the closest thing to an on-field criminal act that there's ever been in NFL history. NFL officials are assembling in league office this morning to determine what is the appropriate punishment and discipline for Myles Garrett. It should not be a difficult decision to make. It would be unimaginable and unthinkable to think that this wouldn't be the longest on-field suspension for an on-field act in NFL history. We've seen Albert Haynesworth suspended 5 games for stomping on the face of former Cowboy center Andre Garrod. Most people believe that this will exceed that Myles Garrett committed an act last night that will define him as a football player no matter what he does for the remainder of his career. And it's not just done at the NFL office. legal charges are possible. They still could be introduced. There's still a lot to sift out, but the NFL is at it first, gathering up in the NFL offices on Friday morning to try to make a decision.
So that was Shefty earlier. We've had a lot of perspective from a lot of our friends here. Marcus Spears has been on this morning, Booger McFarland, and others. I want to bring Ryan Clark into the conversation here now. RC, you're a longtime former Steeler. You know this rivalry and what it's about. Not that that informs this necessarily. I'd like to just give you the floor. What is your reaction to what happened last night, RC?
100% Myles Garrett is wrong. A helmet shouldn't be used at any point to be a weapon on a football field. This is something that the NFL has to act on quickly. It needs to be a heavy penalty. It needs to be, very much like Shefty said, the largest suspension for an on-field incident in football history, in NFL history. With that said, to say this is criminal, all of the overreaction to what we've seen is disgusting to me. It's disgusting and it's irresponsible. This is not Todd Bertuzzi sucker punching Steve Moore and Steve Moore never playing hockey again. This is not that situation. This situation was started because Mason Rudolph attempted to pull off Myles Garrett's helmet. Myles Garrett gets his helmet and is then pulled away from Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph then attempts to fight Myles Garrett again. And I will say it loudly. I'm not saying it's okay to use your helmet, but this is not criminal. This should not be prosecuted. The courts, law should not be brought in to handle this situation. This situation should be handled by the NFL. You don't get to be the attacker. You don't get to be the aggressor and then get to play the victim. That's not how it works. And I also believe when you ask Pouncey, should he be suspended? And he says, you know what, this is what I have to do. Pouncey is right. Pouncey is one of my favorite teammates because he is like that. Because even though Mason Rudolph went after Myles Garrett twice, Myles Garrett did something that is football. Brothers, whether we're on different teams or the same teams, we do not do. And so whether he kicked him, whether he punched him, he should be suspended for those things. But we want to talk about being citizens and what happens off of the field. If all of these things happen all over the field, they can be considered quote-unquote assault. If Bill Romanowski spits in the face of J.J. Stokes as he's walking down the street, that is assault. We didn't screen for that. If Antonio Smith attempts to hit Richie Incognito in 2013 with the helmet in the head the way he did, we call that assault on the streets. But that's not what happens in football. I have seen worse football fights, worse football actions on the practice field in so many different places. And when those things happen, we squabble, we squash it, and we go play football again as teammates. This is football. It's different. And when everybody starts to bring in immediately, let's bring this to assault. Let's make this criminal. We're being irresponsible because that's not what it is. It's a football fight. And yes, it is the worst football fight we have ever seen publicly, right? But this isn't Albert Hainsworth stomping on the head of a helmetless, defenseless, accuseless man on the ground. It's not the same thing. Myles Garrett, I will say it again loudly, should be suspended now, should be suspended for the longest time ever, and his ability to play should require certain things that allow him to do it. But he should not be accused as a criminal or called a criminal or treated as one.
RC, thank you for your perspective and your time this morning. We'll see you in here next week. Ryan is in here every Wednesday. Guys, I'll just bring it to the table. You heard what he said. What'd you think?
I disagree. I've been involved in the NFL in some way, shape, or form since 1991. I've never seen anything like that.
Well,
I've seen I've never seen another guy strike another guy with a helmet on top of his head. I've never seen it. Now, you can argue whether or not you want to make this, a criminal case or not, whatever, okay? But the fact of the matter is this. I've never seen that kind of thing. I don't think what Mason Rudolph was doing on the bottom of that pile. Now, I have seen this. I've been involved in fights where we're pulling each other's helmet, and maybe it's about to come off. And obviously, you're put in a position where it's not safe. And and then it continues and someone comes after you again. I've never seen someone then take some foreign object and crack somebody over the head with it, because then you have now escalated it to an area that is really a zone you can't ever go.
Yeah,
so I disagree.
Lou, if you disagree, I think Ryan agreed with everything we're saying. If you disagree, you're saying that it should be prosecuted.
No, I'm saying this. All right, I'm saying obviously that's going to be up to Mason Rudolph about whether or not he feels he was assaulted.
Right.
Okay, so if he decides to go there, that's on him. If he doesn't decide to go there, I said earlier in the show, I understand maybe why he doesn't.
Right.
Okay, I can see both sides of that. What I'm saying, though, is this. This is not just a normal football fight. That's not a normal football fight.
I will say this. Everybody has the joint practices.
Right.
You know how heated those get. You practice against the same team, the same guys, in a competitive situation. And I believe it was 2007 or 2008, we have a joint practice with the Denver Broncos. I watched Flozo Adam tear Jarvis Moss, their defensive end, his helmet off, and in one fluid action, rips it off over the top, pops him right back on the head. We stopped practice, we split up, we went our separate ways. And now maybe you're playing results a little bit with that, and because nobody was hurt, nobody was maimed, his career wasn't over. And so that's why I don't view that as a criminal act. Mason Rudolph was getting involved in it. Myles Garrett shouldn't have done it, and he should be suspended.
How many
for
times have you seen a football fight?
I've seen that happen.
Okay, and how many times have you seen somebody hit somebody else with a helmet?
One other time. That is it. And I'm saying that.
Quick thought, Sanchez. Go.
I understand where RC's going. He's probably one of the only people who's given Mason Rudolph a little grief, and we talked about it before the segment. Listen, I don't know I think it was just a bad business decision to try and go get your helmet back or whatever he's trying to do, but just the visual optics of it, he looks like the victim.
But to be clear, what Ryan Clark is saying is everything that we all agree on. He's just saying that we need to stop yelling and screaming about criminal act. That's all he's saying. Everything else, he agreed with this.
Well, we are, however, next, I believe we're going to have our legal expert come in just to describe to us what I am. Yes, we have Ryan Smith. Good. Let me take a break. Ryan Smith is going to join us quickly just to describe what legal options might exist going forward.